Book name: The Person I Was. Short summary of this book. The Person I Was is a powerful journey of transformation, self-discipline, and reclaiming health. The book follows a woman who once lived a lethargic, unhealthy life, overeating junk food, avoiding exercise, and constantly feeling drained. Over time, her unhealthy habits lead to serious consequences: weight gain, low energy, and frequent illness. Faced with the reality of her declining well-being, she makes the decision to change, not through drastic measures, but through small, consistent steps. She learns to nourish her body, embrace movement, and build a mindset of resilience. Through discipline, self-care, and persistence, she evolves into a stronger, healthier, and more confident version of herself. This inspiring story serves as a reminder that transformation is possible for anyone willing to take the first step. Index. Part 1. The Carefree Days. Chapter 1. A Life of Comfort, Embracing Laziness and Avoiding Effort. Chapter 2. Food as a Friend, Junk Food Indulgence and Unhealthy Cravings. Chapter 3. Skipping the Basics, Neglecting Exercise and Personal Health. Chapter 4. The Ignored Warnings, Small Signs That Went Unnoticed. Part 2. The Downward Spiral. Chapter 5. The First Wake-Up Call, Falling Sick More Frequently. Chapter 6. Weight Gain and Its Burden, Obesity Creeping In. Chapter 7. Fading Vision, Struggling with Weak Eyesight. Chapter 8. Energy Crisis, Constant Fatigue and Lack of Motivation. Part 3. Realizations and Reflections. Chapter 9. A Look in the Mirror, Acknowledging the Consequences. Chapter 10. The Mind-Body Connection, Understanding How Choices Shape Well-Being. Chapter 11. Regrets and What-Ifs, Wishing for a Different Past. Part 4. The Turning Point. Chapter 12. Breaking the Cycle, The Decision to Change. Chapter 13. Small Steps, Big Changes, Finding Motivation to Live Better. Chapter 14. Nourishing the Body, Shifting from Junk to Healthy Food. Chapter 15. Reclaiming Strength, Exercise, Movement, and Self-Care. Part 5. Becoming Someone New. Chapter 16. Rediscovering Energy, Feeling Alive Again. Chapter 17. A New Mindset, Discipline Over Convenience. Chapter 18. The Power of Consistency, Staying Committed to a Better Life. Chapter 19. Inspiring Others, Sharing the Journey. Chapter 20. Gratitude and Growth, Embracing the Transformation. Epilogue. The Person I Am Today. Now, let's listen to all the chapters completely one by one. Chapter 1. A Life of Comfort. I never liked effort. If something required me to step out of my comfort zone, I avoided it. Running errands. Too tiring. Exercising. Not my thing. Cooking. Why bother when fast food was just a phone call away? My life revolved around convenience, and I convinced myself that it was perfectly fine. Mornings were the worst. The sound of my alarm felt like an attack on my peace. I always snoozed it, sometimes 5 or 6 times, until I had barely enough time to drag myself out of bed. Breakfast. Usually a cup of coffee with too much sugar and a few cookies, if I had any energy to bother. Work or studies took up most of my day, but even then, I found ways to avoid effort. I'd take the elevator instead of the stairs, sit for hours without moving, and reward myself with snacks for doing the bare minimum. Junk food was my escape, my guilty pleasure. A burger, a large soda, a bag of chips, these were my daily comforts. Cooking a healthy meal felt like an unnecessary hassle when I could just order something greasy and satisfying. Exercise. That was for fitness freaks. I believed that as long as I wasn't too overweight, I didn't need to worry. My body would take care of itself, right? Besides, I always told myself I would start next Monday, or after the holidays. Of course, those Mondays never came. Even social outings were carefully planned to avoid anything remotely active. A movie night with popcorn and soda. Yes. A walk in the park. No, thanks. My friends would sometimes invite me to go hiking or to the gym, but I always had an excuse ready. I'm too busy, I didn't sleep well, or my personal favorite, I'll join next time. There was always a next time. At the end of the day, I would collapse into bed, scrolling through my phone for hours, mindlessly watching videos or browsing social media. Sleep was unpredictable, I'd either get too much or too little, and waking up the next morning always felt like a battle. Back then, I thought I was just living life the way I wanted. I didn't see anything wrong with my habits. I wasn't sick, I wasn't struggling yet, and I told myself that I was simply enjoying life. Little did I know, I was setting myself up for a future I wouldn't like. Part 1. The Carefree Days. Chapter 1. A Life of Comfort. I never liked effort. If something required me to step out of my comfort zone, I avoided it. Running errands. Too tiring. Exercising. Not my thing. Cooking. Why bother when fast food was just a phone call away? My life revolved around convenience, and I convinced myself that it was perfectly fine. Mornings were the worst. The sound of my alarm felt like an attack on my peace. I always snoozed it, sometimes 5 or 6 times, until I had barely enough time to drag myself out of bed. Breakfast. Usually a cup of coffee with too much sugar and a few cookies, if I had any energy to bother. Work or studies took up most of my day, but even then, I found ways to avoid effort. I'd take the elevator instead of the stairs, sit for hours without moving, and reward myself with snacks for doing the bare minimum. Junk food was my escape, my guilty pleasure. A burger, a large soda, a bag of chips, these were my daily comforts. Cooking a healthy meal felt like an unnecessary hassle when I could just order something greasy and satisfying. Exercise. That was for fitness freaks. I believed that as long as I wasn't too overweight, I didn't need to worry. My body would take care of itself, right? Besides, I always told myself I would start next Monday, or after the holidays. Of course, those Mondays never came. Even social outings were carefully planned to avoid anything remotely active. A movie night with popcorn and soda. Yes. A walk in the park. No, thanks. My friends would sometimes invite me to go hiking or to the gym, but I always had an excuse ready. I'm too busy, I didn't sleep well, or my personal favorite, I'll join next time. There was always a next time. At the end of the day, I would collapse into bed, scrolling through my phone for hours, mindlessly watching videos or browsing social media. Sleep was unpredictable, I'd either get too much or too little, and waking up the next morning always felt like a battle. Back then, I thought I was just living life the way I wanted. I didn't see anything wrong with my habits. I wasn't sick, I wasn't struggling yet, and I told myself that I was simply enjoying life. Little did I know, I was setting myself up for a future I wouldn't like. Chapter 2. Food as a Friend. Some people eat to live. I lived to eat. Food wasn't just fuel for me, it was comfort, celebration, entertainment, and escape all rolled into one. Whenever I felt stressed, bored, or even slightly sad, my first instinct was to grab something delicious. And by delicious, I didn't mean a bowl of fresh fruit or a salad. No, my comfort food of choice came in the form of crispy fries, gooey cheese-laden pizzas, chocolate-filled pastries, and carbonated sodas that left a tingling sensation on my tongue. Fast food became a part of my routine. I had favorite places for every mood. A burger joint for when I needed something filling, a fried chicken place for when I wanted crunch, and a bakery for sweet cravings. Even when I wasn't hungry, I found an excuse to snack. I told myself it was fine. After all, food made me happy. And wasn't happiness the goal? Cooking never interested me. It seemed like a waste of time when I could order food within minutes. I watched people talk about meal prep and nutritional balance with amusement. Why spend hours planning meals when you could just pick whatever you were craving? Of course, deep down, I knew my diet wasn't great. I had heard all the warnings: too much sugar leads to diabetes, processed food causes inflammation, and sodas weaken bones. But I brushed it all off. I was young, I felt fine, and I assumed I could always fix it later. That later never came. Chapter 3. Skipping the Basics. Exercise was a foreign concept to me. I wasn't into sports, I disliked sweating, and the idea of pushing my body to exhaustion sounded ridiculous. Why would I run when I can take a cab? I often joked. I knew people who worked out religiously. Some woke up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym, others went for evening jogs, and a few even did yoga for mental clarity. I admired their dedication from a distance, but I never had the slightest desire to join them. The last time I had done anything remotely physical was back in school, when PE was mandatory. Even then, I found ways to participate as little as possible. My daily routine involved sitting at work, sitting while eating, sitting while watching TV, and lying down while scrolling my phone. My body wasn't used to movement. Even walking for long distances felt like a task. Stretching? Never. Lifting weights? No chance. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator? Only if the elevator was broken. I thought my lack of activity didn't matter. As long as I wasn't visibly unhealthy, why should I worry? But what I didn't realize was that every skipped step, every avoided stretch, and every day spent inactive was slowly working against me. My body was adjusting to my lifestyle, not in a good way. Chapter 4: The Ignored Warnings. The signs were there. I just refused to see them. I got tired easily, but I blamed it on not getting enough sleep. My digestion wasn't great, but I thought it was just stress. My skin lost its glow, but I assumed it was just the weather. My energy levels were low, but I told myself that's just how adulthood felt. There were moments when my body tried to warn me. I would wake up with stiffness, my legs felt sore after standing for too long, and sometimes my heart would race after climbing just a few stairs. Still, I ignored it. I avoided health checkups, afraid of what the results might say. I laughed when my friends told me to take care of myself. I dismissed the articles about lifestyle diseases, thinking they only happened to older people. Then there were the emotional signs. I felt sluggish, unmotivated, and strangely irritable. Small tasks felt overwhelming, and even on days when I had nothing to do, I didn't feel refreshed. But instead of questioning my habits, I convinced myself that this was normal. I would fix everything later. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. Until my body decided it couldn't wait anymore. Part 2: The Downward Spiral. Chapter 5: The First Wake-Up Call. It started with a fever. At first, I thought it was nothing, a common cold, maybe just exhaustion. I popped a pill, drank some warm tea, and assumed I'd feel better in a day or two. But I didn't. Days passed, and I still felt weak. My body ached, my head throbbed, and even after sleeping for hours, I woke up feeling drained. This wasn't normal. When I finally dragged myself to the doctor, they ran a few tests and asked about my lifestyle. As I casually mentioned my diet, my lack of exercise, and my erratic sleep, I saw their expression change. "You're young, but your body is struggling," they said. "You need to start taking care of yourself before these small issues turn into big ones." I nodded, pretending to take it seriously. But in my mind, I brushed it off. A few vitamins and rest would fix everything, right? So I went home, promised myself I'd be more careful, and continued my usual habits. I didn't realize this was just the beginning. Chapter 6: Weight Gain and Its Burden. A few months later, I noticed something unsettling. My clothes were tighter, my face looked puffier in photos, and I felt heavier, literally. The numbers on the scale confirmed what I already suspected. I had gained weight. A lot of it. I had always been a little careless with my diet, but I had never seen such a drastic change before. It wasn't just about appearance, everything felt harder. Climbing stairs left me breathless. Sitting for long periods made my back ache. Even getting out of bed in the morning required more effort than it should. I felt uncomfortable in my own body. I tried to ignore it. I bought looser clothes, avoided mirrors, and convinced myself that it was just a phase. But deep down, I knew the truth. My body was reacting to years of neglect. And this was only the start of my struggles. Chapter 7: Fading Vision. One day, I noticed something odd. I had to squint to read texts on my phone. At first, I blamed it on bad lighting. But soon, I realized it wasn't just my phone. Street signs looked blurry. Watching TV felt strange. And when I tried to read a book, the words seemed to dance on the page. A trip to the eye doctor confirmed it. My eyesight had weakened significantly. I needed glasses. I was shocked. My vision had always been fine, what had changed? Your diet, lack of physical activity, and excessive screen time are contributing factors, the doctor explained. Your eyes need proper care, just like the rest of your body. I felt embarrassed. I had done this to myself. I walked out of the clinic with a prescription, but also with a heavy heart. Another piece of me was breaking down. Chapter 8. Energy Crisis. By this point, I was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix, but the kind that settled deep into my bones. No matter how much I rested, I felt drained. My body felt sluggish, my mind was foggy, and even small tasks felt overwhelming. Caffeine didn't help. Extra sleep didn't help. Nothing did. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was mental too. I lost motivation for things I once enjoyed. My mood swung unpredictably. Some days, I felt irritated for no reason, other days, I felt numb. I had no energy to work out, no energy to cook, no energy to care. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just a rough patch. My body was screaming for help. Years of bad habits had caught up to me, and now I was paying the price. I had ignored the warnings for too long. Now, I had to make a choice. Would I continue down this path until things got worse? Or was it finally time to change? Part 3. Realizations and Reflections. Chapter 9. A Look in the Mirror. One evening, as I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, I came across an old photo of myself. It was from a few years ago, before the constant fatigue, before the weight gain, before the blurry vision. I looked different, not just physically, but in my expression. I seemed lighter, happier, more alive. I put my phone down and walked to the mirror. For the first time in a long time, I really looked at myself. My face was rounder, my skin duller, my posture slouched. There were dark circles under my eyes, a tiredness that no amount of sleep could fix. How had I let myself get here? I used to tell myself that I was just enjoying life, that I was fine. But standing in front of that mirror, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I wasn't fine. And I hadn't been for a long time. Chapter 10. The Mind-Body Connection. For years, I thought of my body and mind as two separate things. My body was just a vessel, something I didn't have to think too much about. As long as I could move, eat, and function, what else mattered? But now, I was realizing that everything was connected. My bad habits weren't just affecting my physical health, they were affecting my mental health too. The constant fatigue, the mood swings, the lack of motivation, it all traced back to how I treated my body. I had fed it junk, deprived it of movement, ignored its warnings. And in return, it had started shutting down. It wasn't punishing me. It was simply reacting to the choices I had made. Chapter 11. Regrets and What Ifs. I started thinking about all the times I had almost changed. All the times I had promised to start eating healthy next week. All the gym memberships I had paid for but never used. All the mornings I had planned to wake up early and go for a walk but had stayed in bed instead. What if I had taken those small steps back then? Would I still be struggling now? I regretted every excuse, every delay, every "I'll do it later." But regrets couldn't change the past. I had two choices. Dwell on what I should have done. Or finally start doing something different. Part 4. The Turning Point. Chapter 12. Breaking the Cycle. Change didn't happen overnight. I woke up the next morning feeling the same, tired, sluggish, and unmotivated. But this time, something was different. I didn't let those feelings control me. Instead of reaching for my phone, I sat up. Instead of skipping breakfast or grabbing something sugary, I made a simple, balanced meal. Instead of brushing off my health, I admitted to myself that I had to make a change. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't throw away all my junk food or sign up for a marathon. I just took one step. And I told myself I'd take another tomorrow. Chapter 13. Small steps, big changes. I knew if I tried to overhaul my life all at once, I would fail. So I started small. Instead of ordering takeout every night, I cooked one meal at home. Instead of promising to work out every day, I just walked for 10 minutes. Instead of staying up until 2 a.m., I went to bed half an hour earlier. At first, it felt pointless. These tiny changes couldn't possibly make a difference, right? But slowly, they started adding up. I felt a little less tired. My clothes fit a little better. My mood lifted, just a little. And that, little, was enough to keep me going. Chapter 14. Nourishing the body. I had spent years using food as comfort. Now, I had to learn how to use it as fuel. I didn't follow a strict diet. I didn't cut out all my favorite foods. But I started paying attention. I added more vegetables to my meals. I swapped soda for water. I learned how to cook simple, healthy meals that actually tasted good. I still had cravings. I still ate junk food sometimes. But instead of letting it be my entire diet, I let it be a small part of it. Food was no longer something I used to escape. It was something I used to heal. Chapter 15. Reclaiming strength. Movement had always been something I avoided. Now, I had to teach my body to love it. I didn't join a gym right away. I didn't force myself into intense workouts. I just moved. I stretched in the morning. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. I danced in my room when no one was watching. At first, it was hard. My body was stiff, my muscles weak. But I kept going. Soon, my walks became longer. My energy levels improved. My body felt stronger. For the first time in my life, I didn't see exercise as a punishment. I saw it as freedom. Part 5. Becoming someone new. Chapter 16. Rediscovering energy. I never realized how exhausting it was to feel tired all the time, until I stopped feeling that way. Waking up no longer felt like a battle. My body didn't ache constantly. I could go through an entire day without needing a nap or a sugar boost. I had spent years believing that exhaustion was normal, that dragging myself through life was just how things were. But now, I had energy. Not the kind that comes from caffeine or quick fixes, but real, lasting energy. The kind that comes from movement, from nourishing food, from taking care of myself. It felt like I had been living in fog for years, and now, finally, the sun had come out. Chapter 17. A new mindset. I used to think of discipline as something painful, something that took away enjoyment. Now, I saw it differently. It wasn't about restriction, it was about freedom. Freedom from constant exhaustion. Freedom from feeling stuck in my own body. Freedom from regrets. For years, I had chosen comfort over effort, ease over change. And it had only made me miserable. Now, I chose something different. And for the first time in a long time, I felt in control. Chapter 18. The power of consistency. I didn't get here because of one big change. I got here because of small changes, done over and over again. One healthy meal didn't transform my body, but eating better consistently did. One walk didn't make me fit, but moving my body consistently did. One good night of sleep didn't fix my energy, but prioritizing rest consistently did. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up for myself, day after day. Even when I didn't feel like it. Even when progress was slow. Because the truth is, the person you become is built in the choices you make every day. Chapter 19. Inspiring others. I never set out to inspire anyone. But as I changed, people noticed. Friends asked me how I had more energy. Family members started making small changes in their own lives. Even strangers reached out, saying my journey had motivated them. It felt surreal. For so long, I had been the person who made excuses. The person who avoided effort. The person who put off change. Now, I was proof that transformation was possible. If I could do it, so could anyone. Chapter 20. gratitude and growth, embracing the transformation. There was a time when I resented my past self. I looked back at the years I wasted in unhealthy habits, the opportunities I let slip away, and the damage I did to my body and mind. I used to wonder, why did I let it get so bad? But now, I see things differently. Instead of resentment, I feel gratitude. I am grateful for the wake-up call, for the struggles that pushed me to change. Without those difficult moments, I wouldn't have found the strength to rebuild myself. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt, these were not failures. They were lessons. They taught me resilience, patience, and self-love. They showed me that true transformation isn't just about changing how you look, it's about changing how you see yourself. Growth is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. I no longer chase perfection. Instead, I focus on progress. Some days are easy, others are hard. But no matter what, I keep moving forward. I have learned to appreciate my body, not for how it looks, but for what it does for me every day. I fuel it with good food, not as punishment, but as an act of self-care. I move, not because I have to, but because I want to. Most of all, I have learned to appreciate myself. I used to dream of becoming someone different, someone strong, confident, and full of energy. Today, I am that person. Not because I changed overnight, but because I showed up for myself, day after day, even when it was hard. I no longer fear slipping back into old habits because I know now that I have the power to choose. Every day, I choose growth. I choose health. I choose me. And for that, I am endlessly grateful. Epilogue. The person I am today. I used to believe change was impossible. For years, I convinced myself that I was just one of those people, someone who would always be tired, someone who lacked discipline, someone who could never commit to a healthy lifestyle. I let my bad habits define me, wrapping myself in excuses while my body and mind deteriorated. But now, I know better. I am no longer the person who ignores her health. No longer the person who makes excuses. No longer the person who lets life pass her by in a fog of fatigue and regret. That version of me still exists in my memories, but she is not in control anymore. I don't claim to be perfect. I still have lazy days. I still indulge in comfort food. I still struggle at times. But the difference is, I don't let those moments pull me back into my old life. I no longer punish myself for setbacks. Instead, I learn from them and move forward. The biggest lesson I've learned is that self-care is not a luxury, it is a responsibility. My body and mind deserve the effort. My future deserves my commitment. I deserve to be the best version of myself. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see physical changes. I see strength. I see resilience. I see someone who fought for herself and won. I look back at the person I was with understanding, not shame. Because if she hadn't reached her breaking point, I wouldn't be standing here today, stronger, healthier, and finally, truly alive. The end. Thanks for listening to my book and hope you like it.